Self-mastery is about cultivating yourself physically, mentally, emotionally and spiritually in all of your aspects of your being in what Bruce would call a totality. To not fight is the highest level of fighting.
Guys, you know, who just want to have they just want to beat you up. What do you do?
The process of cultivating your body, just like a samurai sword, it gets put in intense heat. It gets beaten and folded, put back in intense heat, beaten and folded 100 times. Now, just like that, a martial artist has to go through intense pressure, a lot of beatings, a lot of folding, a lot of falling, a lot of tripping, and so on.
How often do you get to talk to a real martial arts master whose mission in life is to preserve and promote Bruce Lee's martial art and philosophy of Jeet Kune Do? Well, my guest today does just that. Seifu Lak Loi is a self-mastery specialist, a published author of 4 books, a healer and a martial arts instructor, the 3rd generation of Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. He has a direct lineage to Bruce Lee himself and is certified under the famous Wednesday Night group. By day, he's a true white-collar warrior. He's been a City and Wall Street consultant since 1997, currently working in the City of London by day as a senior IT consultant. Lak has coined the term martial mind power. And today, I am really looking forward to learning from Seifu Lak one thing in particular: how to unleash your inner Bruce Lee. Lak, welcome. So nice to see you. I'm very excited to have you here today. You are a Sifu Kung Fu master. Are you not?
I'm just a humble teacher. Thank you so very much.
You are a master. How long have you been practicing Kung Fu?
I've been practicing...
Because specifically you've been practicing Jeet Kune Do.
That's correct, yes. It's Bruce Lee's martial art and philosophy, or what we call his martial process. I've been practicing that for 20 years.
20 years?
It's been 20 years.
Like solid, rigorous.
Solid. Straight.
Mind, body, soul, hook, line, sinker.
Yeah. I took 4 years out just to train it full time, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you teach it now, and there are certain aspects of what you talk about that I just absolutely can't wait to talk more about. And, I had this first book of yours, Master Your Life, The Art of Martial Mind Power, this very first book, for a very long time since it came out. And, it's a proper manual here. And basically, in this podcast, I really want to learn everything I can about how to unleash my inner Bruce Lee. How the people watching can unleash their inner Bruce Lee. I really, really want to talk about that. So let's begin with one of the key elements of what Bruce Lee talked about. He says, flow like water. Flow like water, he says, right?
He did, yes.
See, the idea is running water never grows stale. So you got to just keep on flowing.
So water is a huge aspect of, almost like a cornerstone of the philosophy that you follow in the actual physical martial arts. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely. So the quote actually talks about Bruce mentions how water, if you put water into a cup, it becomes a cup. If you put water into a teapot, it becomes a teapot. Now, water can drip, flow, or crash. Be like water, my friend. Now, there's so many aspects to that teaching in isolation that is quite expansive. So in the book, what we try and do is first of all say, okay, so in order to be like water, you need to understand what water is. So we say, okay, let's have a look at the properties, characters, and behaviors of water. Water could be in liquid form, gas form, or solid. It could be ice.
It can become
anything.
anything.
It could be steam. Yeah. And it's interesting, water, because when it becomes ice, the potholes in the UK are as a consequence of freezing temperatures, ice expanding, and breaking something as hard as concrete and tarmac.
So strong.
It's so strong. And if you think about, if you have a driveway and you've got a weed, a tarmac driveway and you got weed growing in the middle of it. How did that weed push its way up through solid tarmac? That's the power of water. That's what we're talking about here. But then at the same time, water can be gas, so it could be like steam, for instance. And therefore it could be dispersed. There's a kind of almost like a invisible element to it.
Yeah, can go anywhere.
It can go anywhere, and it can be in a cycle, like a rain cycle, for instance. So there's cyclicity to water as well. And then you've got the other element of it being liquid. Now, as a liquid form, it flows. Water will always find the shortest route. And because it finds the shortest route, one of the biggest principles in Jeet Kune Do is economy of form, economy of motion. Is about using the least amount of effort to create the maximum amount of impact in that thing that you're trying to achieve or the outcome that you're trying to attain.
One of the one of the analogies that I really, really loved when I met my husband. We're married today, by the way, 17 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Wow.
When I met him back in the day, we kind of both come from corporate backgrounds and stuff, and paths crossed working and stuff. And I was having a real challenge with a particular individual in my organization, and I was trying to kind of find out, like, my questioning was like, why? What is it about me? Or what is it about this? Or what? And he just said to me, he said, no, he says, you're just going to come across rocks in the river. And he says, you, like water, have to flow around the rocks rather than go straight into the rocks. And it's one of the most powerful analogies that has helped me. And I ended up winning a massive deal, like a $1 billion deal,
Wow.
In that situation.
It's amazing.
I mean, it was in a collaboration because it was so huge. We had to create a consortium, but it's still today one of the biggest, probably one of the top 2 biggest deals. And you do come across so many characters, as you know, in you work in corporates, you come across so many characters. And one of the most profound, simplest ways that I have learned to navigate my way around those types of people is by thinking about how water flows around rocks, because we are going to come across people who want to get in your way. They don't want to support you.
Yeah.
And, as you're saying, the water can go anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Be Like Water philosophy, it comes from, Chinese philosophy originally. And, it's, like I said, it's quite expansive. So in the martial arts, we try and figure out ways on how you can find a way. If you've got an obstacle in the way,
Find a way.
do you go around it?
What would
Or
water do?
do you remove the obstacle? If a dam breaks, it will remove everything in its path.
Yeah.
It will just annihilate everything. And sometimes you just got to crash your way through things. And at other times, you've got to be subtle, like a stream. A stream will go round. But a stream will slowly, edge its way into a river, and become a river.
Yeah.
So sometimes, we got to learn that when you're in an entrepreneurial or an enterprise initiative, sometimes it's a matter of just being steady and just keep going, because eventually, your stream will widen.
Yeah.
And it will start to flow as a river. And eventually it meets the sea. And that's when, now you've got the whole expanse. But, it's a journey.
But it's inevitable in the sense, when you follow that philosophy, it's inevitable that it will become a river. It will join the sea, even if it's not a full river. Maybe as part of a stream, it will join the river.
Yeah.
And so the idea actually, for whether it's working in daily life, corporates, whether it's as entrepreneurs, that idea, what would water do, is find a way.
Yeah.
It would find a way to flow somehow.
That's right.
And you just need to look for the outlet. You need to find that carve that path. So it's really interesting. As a scuba diver, this year I'm going to be scuba diving like 27 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I've dived across the world in so many different conditions, like a couple of times when I'm surprised I actually survived. Really dangerous sometimes. And again, it's really fascinating to me how people don't realize how powerful water is.
Yeah.
That it looks really nice and pleasant and soft and everything, but the moment you start to understand its qualities and properties, there's so much to learn about how to navigate in life. For example, going with the current as opposed to going against the current. I know we have that as a metaphor, but literally when you're diving and there's suddenly a change in the flow, and you suddenly encounter a current, and the current can literally drift you out. Like if I'm diving in the Maldives and end up in Sri Lanka if you don't know how to deal with that.
Wow.
So it's that powerful, and I think it's really important in life to understand the elements, and specifically, well, all the elements, but water in particular, because it has that softness, but that strength.
But that, the softness part of it is interesting because Bruce's realization on the philosophy and be like water actually came from a personal experience he had where he was going through a tough time, and he was on a boat on a lake, frustrated, and he started punching the water, and he just realized it's like, this is just feeble. I'm just hitting water, and water's
nothing happens.
Nothing's happening. It's soft. It's just going around me, and that's when you realize this is just pointless. And that's
the resistance is pointless. You mean?
Is that the resistance of him hitting the water? Was an absolute waste of energy. And that's what sparks that philosophy for him, and the insights into him diving deeper into that. Even himself, a realization from a point of frustration, a point of, where he was seeking some kind of guidance, and bang, there it is.
Amazing. So you have the 9 steps. I know in your book you talk about the 9 steps of achieving self-mastery. But, I asked Dr. DeMartini when I interviewed him, because he's obviously all his work is about self-mastery. And I'm like, I'm just I cannot know enough about the subject, like self-mastery. And I myself have my own views on that.
Yeah.
What does self-mastery actually mean for you?
Yeah. Self-mastery is about cultivating yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in all of your aspects of your being, in what Bruce would call a totality. And ultimately to be not only tap into your truest potential and be the best you can be, but also to be in connection with your highest, what I call your true highest authentic self. And we've all got a purpose for being here on Mother Earth, and ultimately we're trying to reconnect with that. We're trying to reveal who we really are.
Do you think that is the purpose, though? If I were to say we do it through the purpose. Today, people are talking a lot about purpose, right? And the more I think about it, and the more I, as you know, I'm very deep into the many philosophies, but I've gone very deep into the Indian Vedic and stuff. And it seems to me that the purpose of life is to become the highest version of your self, as in consciousness that you are. And then you choose how you go about doing that, whether it's through this or whether it's through that, this work, that work. What do you say about that?
What I would say from personal experience and personal spiritual experience as well is that we choose what dharma we need to achieve and fulfill in this lifetime. Dharma meaning, in Japan they call it ikigai, right? For instance, ikigai is the reason for being. Dharma is the reason for being. But, sometimes people interpret it as the your righteous path. What does righteous path mean? It starts to all of a sudden become a little bit eclectic and starts to separate you from whatever it is because you don't understand it. A language starts to put you off. But actually what it's saying is we've all come here with a mission. We've all set a mission. We've all got one. And sometimes it's karmic. Sometimes it's to do with things that have happened in past lives. Sometimes it's things that we need to resolve in this time. Sometimes, and as a hypnotherapist as well, sometimes people come into this world because they've had such a hard past life that they just need a break from it. So they just come here to enjoy.
Chill out a bit.
Just to enjoy. Because
Yeah.
this existence is like, all right, those were quite hard, those last few lifetimes. Let's just come here and just celebrate life. Sometimes it's just that. So we all do have what in Sanskrit is called svaru, our true nature, our true spiritual self. And really, we're trying to reconnect with that in some way, shape, or form. But by fulfilling that duty or dharma or ikigai that we came here to do. And we've chosen that. And I remember choosing mine.
I do too.
Did you?
Yeah.
I used to have dreams as a kid about it. And I did not know what it was until I had a spiritual awakening and enlightenment around that. And I was like, okay, I get it now. That's when I realized it was real. Up until then, it was a dream. And that was a paradigm shift because it wasn't a belief anymore. It was knowing.
It's a knowing. Yeah. It's beyond the belief. It's like you just know and you don't need to prove it to anybody. You don't need any science backing it up.
No.
It's just what is. I so get that. And I think for me, the idea of purpose, as you say, we at one level, we came in with a specific mission because it's part of the journey of the soul, as it were, to evolve in a certain direction. But beyond that, the actual purpose is to become whole and complete in our true essence, you know, in our highest. And so I think for me that when people get really tied up in knots about what's my purpose, you know, what should I do in my life and so on. And for me as a coach, as a transformation coach, one of the things that I will always say is, you know, do whatever calls you to do, but it's not about the doing, it's about understanding the context beneath why you're doing that thing. Whatever it is, if it helps you to grow and to recognize your true nature in a bigger way so that you can become, as you use the word authentic, I would say the highest version of yourself, you know, if you can unpeel the layers more and more so you can get to see how magnificent you are. I call it the sparkling diamond. That concept.
Absolutely.
So that because the diamond reflects light and light is knowledge. And knowledge is this that we're talking about.
Absolutely.
That's the true knowledge of your highest essence.
Absolutely. And there's so much profound beauty within that we have to learn to try and embrace that. But, you know, the idea of sharing knowledge and wisdom on a podcast like this is to help inspire and empower people to go out there and try and look for their own answers. And sometimes, you know, the biggest struggle is people don't know, you know, how to go about it. You know, there's so many different ways that you can tap into that. And it could be, like you said, you know, walk your path, listen to your inner self. And even listening to your inner self is a big statement, because it means that you have to be receptive. And to get into a state of receptivity, you've got to do a lot in engineering. To do a lot in engineering means that you've got to work on yourself.
And you need to understand what's getting in the way.
Yes.
And the conversation's getting in the way, the behavior's getting in the way, the habits the people getting in the way. The whole of that. So listening to that inner voice is actually my mission. That for me, as your mission is to teach, you know, how to people to unleash their Bruce Lees. For me, that's the key, because if you can do that, then everything else can fall in line. Then you know which path to follow.
Do you know what? It's amazing though. I'm sure you're there as well. Is that when you've done this for such a long time and you've been working on yourself, then you can see where other people should be. And, you know, you can corroborate that because there's other sciences out there that you can use to corroborate your path, your purpose in life. A really good friend of mine is a numerologist, and she will tell you, you know, your pinnacle moments in life, you know, your challenges in life, the talents you're born with, and your purpose. You charge 100 quid, right? And
They
you
tell you all
can
of that.
you can go and find out, right? So there's loads of ways, and that's just one way.
Yeah.
You know, you can go down the martial arts path, right? You can do yoga. You can go down a
Work in a
spiritual route.
corporate. You could work in a corporate and still find your way around.
You could potentially find your corporate. Remember, they also got an agenda pulling you in a certain way. So it might be, might not be,
Yeah. I think it's about self-awareness, right?
ultimately.
Wherever you go, if self-awareness goes with you
Yeah.
and you can elevate that self-awareness, then I think the guidance for yourself is coming from that internal, that inner Sifu, that inner guru
That's right.
type place.
That's right.
So, you know, I really want to know from you, like, what should I give up, like, to unleash my inner Bruce Lee? What do I need to give up to accomplish that?
What do you need to give up? In any endeavor, to gain something, you have to give something. And to give something, you have to be clear what it is. So to unleash your inner Bruce Lee, let's just say you're going down a martial arts route, for instance. The first thing is you've got to give commitment. Okay, you've got to give commitment. You've got to be in a space where you're ready and prepared and surrender yourself to a teacher that is bona fide. A non-bona fide teacher is going to take your money and lead you up the garden path. But bona fide teacher that is there for your best interest. A bona fide teacher that is acting from a place of servitude. You know, as I say, you know, acting as a teacher. Also, to give you an example, a teacher bows to the student before the students bow to the teacher. Now, if the students don't bow to the teacher, it's fine. Usually marked as a sign of disrespect. But when a teacher is giving love, respect to the students, and that kinship is there, there's no way a student's not going to do that back to you. So a teacher is a servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. So considers himself the lowest. And also one which wants to elevate the students beyond his capabilities and capacity so that the students can be better than you.
See, now there comes the nub. Because how often do we come across mentors and teachers who become cathedrals? Like in their shadow, no grass can grow, you know? That's a really key. So finding a teacher like that is already a blessing, I think. So what you're saying is commitment. Commitment requires you then to give up the internal noise, like I can't do it, I don't feel like it, oh, not today, all of that, right? It's like, no, you do it, 5 o'clock in the morning, you're up, you're doing your thing, or whatever that time is that you've committed to.
So if I was to put it down to one thing, you're giving up doubt. You're giving up doubt. To commit, you have to give up doubt, right? So surrender comes faith, right? So you replace that with faith.
Right.
So if you're going to learn something, you've got to have that faith in whatever it is that you want to learn. Someone's going to come to you to learn yoga. They're going to have faith that you're bona fide and you're going to help them get where they need to get to. And you will encourage them. And just with your presence, you know, you're also, as a teacher, seeing if that student's got skin in the game. Are they really bought into this? Because if they're not going to progress as well as they could do. So I think that's the first thing that you have to give up.
Give up doubt.
Yeah, give up doubt and replace that with faith. The second is to take affirmative action. You have to take action on the thing that's compelling you, calling you into a certain direction. And sometimes we wait until things are so dire, disastrous, diabolical, you know, damage to all these D words, yeah, right? That you're forced to make a decision to then do something and take action towards something. but you have to act. So that action could be preparation, you know, finding a teacher, finding a school, finding the kind of art that you want, understanding what it is you want to get out of it. That comes from where you are right now. And then reaching out to them, making an appointment, and then showing up. Showing up's the biggest thing. The first day showing up, you know, a number of times you've showed up to, you know, a personal development course where you're working on yourself in a group of, you know, a room full of strangers, or, you know, an academic course, or to a new job, or to new client prospect, or whatever it is. You know, we've got butterflies in our tummy, you know, that's normal. You know, that's part of our physiology. You know, we have hunger, we have thirst, we have fear.
Just
It's
part
just
of
a
the spectrum, right?
physiological
Part of the human
response,
spectrum. Yeah.
And when you think about it, oh yeah, I'm hungry, I'll eat something. Oh, I'm thirsty, I'll drink something. Oh, I got fear, I better face it.
Face your fear. That's the
Just
second
go
thing.
into it, step into it, right? So lean into the fear and just do it, act. Because most of the times we stand in our own way. So sometimes you have to lose yourself to progress, you know, by just saying.
But I don't want to break my bones.
Yeah?
I don't want to break my bones.
You don't have to break your bones.
Do I not?
Why do you have to break your bones?
Why? I mean, because we're doing Kung Fu, because we're doing, you know, Jeet Kune. I mean, I don't want to break my bones.
It's a possibility that you could break a bone.
See, in yoga, the further we go, the more there, you know, there's floating, handstands, forearms, all kinds of stuff. Now, there are techniques to do it, and you have to reach there. You have to develop in a certain direction, like, you know, shoulders, arms, core, the whole, you know, you need to have that stamina, the strength, and so on. But you could always break something. The chances are that if you're really present, you don't. Because your movement is just done with such self-awareness. You're listening to how deep and how far you can go. So, you know, and how fast you or slow you should go. How about in...
martial arts?
Yeah, martial arts. Because it's a little bit more kind of...
So we're full contact, right? So when we train the physical, we're saying, okay, you know, when you're put in harm's way, or a loved one put in harm's way, and you've got no choice but to respond with controlled violence, then you've got to do whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Because,
including break your bones.
Well, you know, Bruce had this saying, you know, he said, you know, if somebody smash your flesh, then you smash their flesh. If somebody cuts you, you cut them. If somebody's trying to kill you, you kill them. You know, so it's always staying one step ahead of them. Now, the thing about combat is, when you know how to do that, you will look for every excuse not to do that. I promise you, there is nobody in this world that knows that they can damage somebody that will.
Yeah.
Because our innate ability is not to. Colonel John Boyd from the US Air Force was a fighter pilot as well. He came up with this what we call the OODA loop: observe, orient, decide, act process. And as part of that, one of the things that he discovered was 95% of his fighter pilots did not want to kill anyone. 5% of the people did 95% of the killings. And they probably had kind of psychotic tendencies, right? But 95% of them, sane in their mind, did not want to hurt somebody else. So that's that side. But then there's the other side, is that, you know, you train safely, effectively. You can train without hurting others to a certain degree. But hey, let's face it, it's not tiddlywinks.
No, but you have to break bricks, no? I mean, you know, and I know that I mean, I've done, I know it's like you stand there and I've broken like slabs of wood, you know, just on a stage, just like that, by focusing and just by intending it. But it gets harder as you rise up the scale of Kung Fu.
Swords don't hit back.
Bruce had a philosophy, and he talks about it in one of the movies. I think it's Enter Dragon, and he goes, "Boards don't hit back." All right. Right. So the idea is, you know, in Jeet Kune Do, you don't break boards because they're not going to really teach you anything about yourself. All right. And maybe there's like some it's a mental challenge that
Yeah.
you're going to break through some wood. Fine. But you know, generally, though, when you break the wood, you break it along the grain,
Yes.
right? No one breaks it against the grain because you break your hand. Just let's face it, that, you know, they're trying to make it
Or the weakest part
manageable.
of the
Exactly.
seam, yeah.
So you know, there are those aspects of things, but you know, in the process of conditioning or the process of cultivating your body, just like a samurai sword, you know, it gets put under in intense heat. It gets beaten and folded, put back in intense heat, beaten and folded 100 times, right? That's just to make the shaft of the blade before it started to be sharpened. Now, just like that, a martial artist has to go through intense pressure, a lot of beatings, a lot of folding, a lot of falling, a lot of tripping, and so on, until you come out the other side stronger, you know? So that process is something that you're experiencing physically, but you're also experiencing it mentally as well. And, you know, when you're experiencing it mentally, you're creating resilience, mental resilience, you know, and emotional resilience as well. And it gets to the point where, you know, that emotional resilience is not one which is now making a noise like maybe the student was when they first started, you know, when they had a lot of rage, anger, and they didn't know how to express it. But now it's expressed through silence. And that's really dangerous. Because as I say, the most dangerous person in the room is the one that's listening. And I think really we want to get to a point where, yes, you can be dangerous, but you're not malicious in your intent. You're there for the betterment of whatever's happening. You're in a corporate setting, you're there for the betterment of that project, that team, that program, the company, whatever that initiative is, you know, you're trying to improve that, you're trying to elevate that. If it's a family setting, you're trying to improve a situation. Maybe there's a disagreement, or maybe there's some episode that's happened and you're trying to improve that. And so on, you know, all of these conflicts are different kind of scenarios and situations that you might be faced with, or you might find yourselves in, is how do you carry yourself with grace, but having that inner strength.
And being true to yourself at the same time, being rooted in something that speaks for you to be like it resonates with you. So it's not misaligned.
That's right.
With who you are and what you say and what you do and how you respond and how you react. That what you're saying is that you have this huge armory then of skills and abilities that that you have at your disposal that you can then use to, you know, in any situation in life as such.
That's right. And there's, you know, going back to your point about injury, right? Most of my students get injured playing football, running, or playing squash or tennis.
Or sleeping
than
on
they
the
do
wrong,
in the dojo.
Sleeping on
or sleeping
too long on a side or something.
Sleeping a bit wonky and getting a frozen shoulder, for instance, right? I mean, you know, nobody else was involved. It was a martial art. And the dojo is a safer environment than your bed.
And I think it's because we bring with ourselves like that self-awareness when we go into, you know, doing whatever that thing is. But in your case, it's Kung Fu. In my case, it's yoga. And I get, you know, when I'm practicing, really present, like I'm tired this morning. I haven't slept enough. I think I should be careful if I go upside down, like how often, and, you know, what's my... So you're like...
what's your capacity?
Present to what's going on. And that's really what the training is, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think in every setting that you might be in, and I, you know, we make a big point of this, is that you're 5% in the dojo, if that. 95% you live your life outside the dojo. If you can't translate the teachings here to outside into the real world, then what you're doing here, as far as I'm concerned, is pointless. Because this is a way of life. So therefore, we need to do what I call daily life application. So when you are in a situation, you can navigate, you know, with calmness, with a serenity, and some of the
And with confidence, inner
And confidence,
confidence
yeah.
that nothing can move you.
That's right.
Like you might feel a little bit ruffled
Yeah,
on the surface from time to time,
Yeah.
but deep inside,
yeah,
that confidence grows that there's nothing on this planet
That's
that can
right.
really shatter you.
and you know the idea behind being a warrior is to be a protector and a preserver of people, right? And in order to do that, you have to start with a strong body and a strong mind, but a soft heart.
Mm.
Now, without soft heart, you're not working for others. You're working for yourself. You're not fit to be a martial artist, let alone teacher,
Yeah.
because you care about yourself. And all of a sudden, that environment is not right for others. It has to be about others. It has to be. Now, if we take this perspective and say, okay, well, let's apply it out into real life. Let's apply it into the corporate world. You know, and I do quite a lot of work in the corporate world in that space. A lot of corporates are all about themselves, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Corporate individuals are also that's encouraged. It's actually encouraged. It's
It's
part of the
encouraged.
growth path. It's like take care of yourself, kill or be killed. There's all these kind of philosophies that people have.
and those philosophies or those catchphrases, they kind of sound cool and become kind
Dog
of
eat dog.
a mantra, and all of a sudden you're actually coding really toxic
Yeah.
philosophical practices. But if you go up north, in the UK even, I'm talking about, not all companies operate that way.
No, it's so different.
They're different.
Yeah. The philosophies are so much different. I used to work with, financial institutions up in Liverpool, Bradford, like north of Manchester, and even Scotland, and I just find that there's a lot more humanity.
Yeah.
People are a lot more human. Having said that, they moved to London.
Yeah.
Either they won't survive with that attitude, or if they won't survive with that attitude, and they're forced to actually adapt.
Yeah.
And this is when they stay, or they kind of go, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Why am I giving my life to this?
I think the scenario that you pose actually is a really tricky one, but the answer is really simple. It's really to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
In a world where everyone's making decisions that you disagree with because there's no integrity or morality there, then don't follow them. Don't follow them. Say something, because otherwise you're just condoning it and you just become part of that beast.
That leads me to another part of the philosophy, though, of unleashing your inner Bruce Lee. The idea that don't follow them, I think, is one of the major challenges as humanity we have, because we, as a breed on this planet, we have this training going back like since the beginning to follow.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, there is this inherent threat to your survival.
Yeah.
And that's what has people follow and not question.
Yeah.
And then they follow to their own detriment, to the extent, to the extent of their health, miserable inside, but they can no longer step off that hamster wheel.
Yeah.
I'm mixing my metaphors now.
Yeah.
Following.
But I'm with you.
It takes something. What does it take, in your opinion, to actually start to not follow and to be able to listen to that internal voice?
And that is a really powerful question, because what you're really talking about here is, how do you facilitate change? And that is by being on the inside. It's much easier to facilitate change on the inside than being on the outside. So when you're in a position like that, you're in a very empowered position, because you can have direct influence or even indirect influence.
You mean the individual who's finding it difficult to get out,
right.
because they're so woven into a certain philosophy and so many things have happened, you know, so many loyalties
Yeah.
between individuals for whatever it might be,
Yeah.
that they can't step off that
Yeah.
ladder, or they can't step off that hamster wheel. They have to stay there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're on their own.
Yeah.
And that is the biggest threat to somebody who has now gone, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years like that.
That's right. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of self-mastery, being in tune with yourself to be able to say something which is going to give people a different perception on what's happening. You know, as I say, you know, it's not about changing things. It's about seeing the familiar things in new ways. And if you have
shifting the
the
context.
ability, exactly, if you have the
Yes.
ability to do that, then actually it's not as hard as you think it is. But it's being able to do that in a very intelligent and congruent way, but still maintaining your integrity, your self-integrity at the same time by doing that. So although we might think it's harder than it is, actually for a person that's really well-centered and self-rooted in themselves, it's not as hard as you think it is.
No, but if you're centered and self-rooted in yourself, you wouldn't be in that situation that long. Would you?
Everyone is where they need to be at that moment in time for a reason. And they're in the perfect place. They always are. Even if you feel like, what am I doing here? You know, this isn't the right environment for me. I don't like it, whatever. But you're there for a reason. It's either teaching you some kind of life lesson, some self-awareness, or maybe you're there to facilitate some positive change and transformation in that environment that you're in. It could be a corporate
Or
environment.
maybe you're in that environment in order that you can see that for yourself. And that is part of the soul lesson.
Yeah, absolutely.
To see the trappedness of, you know, of life in certain ways.
But what martial arts teaches us is that you don't quit, right? You don't just say, okay, you know, this is too hard, I'm going to jack it in. What you do is you make it work the best you can. And until you've tried every avenue, you don't quit. Because at least that way, you know you tried everything in your arsenal first. And then if that doesn't work, then you can make an informed decision that you've tried your best and it didn't work. Maybe it's time.
And isn't it true that the lessons that we are confronted with, life confronts us, like our own weave of who we are, you know, brings us to points where we are in certain situations and we find like, what do I do? Can't get out, want to get out. And that actually, that, you know, maybe that is why you're there to see that for yourself. That's exactly what the point is to be able to actually see that. That were you to step away without resolving that for yourself, wherever you are, it's just going to follow you in different guises with different people in different places.
Absolutely. You know, I'm a firm believer that if you don't pick up the life lesson in a certain cycle of teaching, then that cycle will repeat itself like a record. And it gets harsher and harsher each time.
Yes, it does.
So I think it's important to be able to see that lesson. But once you've absorbed that lesson and you learned the lesson, absorbed that lesson, you have an obligation to give it away, you know, to pass it on.
Do you have an obligation though, or is that just what
100%.
we tell ourselves? I sometimes
100%.
question that actually.
100%.
Do you think so?
100%.
See, I started out believing, really strongly believing that to be true.
Yeah.
And then the more, it kind of became a little bit of a have to, have to do, have to do it.
Yeah.
And I realized that actually that's also not the right place to be. That actually, you know, you and who you're being in every single moment of the day, with whomever you may be talking to or not, even in your own environment, the energy that you bring through yourself in the world is having an impact. You know, it's that thought forms, like what I believe, what I think. if those thoughts are aggressive,
Yeah.
angry, violent, whatever they might be, dysfunctional, that they also contribute into
Yeah.
the collective.
Yeah.
So I'm just speaking to those people who may not necessarily feel that they can go in, like you are teaching people
Yeah.
incredibly difficult things, like how to master their mind and also how to master your physical body through Kung Fu, right? And there may be people who are not quite in that position,
Yeah.
but they're still contributing.
Yeah. You see, I think just to add to what you've just said there, the obligation to give it away is one that has to be done with a lot of caution. When we start a martial arts class and we finish a martial arts class, we start and end with a bow. And one of the movements is we start there and we go here. And when we go here, that this represents power, this represents knowledge. This means keep it by your side. Do not give it away indiscriminately, because what I'm going to teach you could injure, maim, disable, kill somebody. In other words, I'm giving you a powerful tool, weapon.
Yes.
Right? So you have to have an obligation to use it carefully.
Responsibly.
Exactly. So if you've got a weapon, you have to be careful who you're going to give it to, who you're going to teach how to use that. So when I say you have an obligation to give it away, you've got to discriminate, and that's in the most positive way possible. Who are you going to give it to? And are they receptive to it? Otherwise, you're wasting your breath.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely get that.
And I think that is the most powerful teaching around teaching.
Yeah. Because there are people who really can use that power and strength and will take it for whatever stuff they're dealing with in life. And it's gone into an abyss. It's gone into a black hole.
That's right.
And it's okay as long as you know that that's where it's going and that's what you're doing. It's not a problem. But when you don't, it can really, really disempower you. It can leave you emptied out.
Yes. So
because there has to be an exchange. Surely there has to be some flow between two, reception and give, contribution, reception,
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, when from a teacher standpoint, you're practicing the art of giving. From a student standpoint, they have to have skin in the game. So what are they giving in order to receive?
What do they bring into it?
So back in the day, students used to bring fruit or something else that could be of practical use to the teacher.
Like a diksha.
Yeah, a diksha, exactly what it is. And that's exactly the word that I had in mind. And so they give diksha, that means a surrender of something. The diksha in the modern world is money. So they have a membership. That's their diksha. And if you spiritualize it, and that means you put some high values around that and you create some sacredity around that, all of a sudden, you've got something special on your hands. Otherwise, you can go to any fitness club or any other martial arts school and give your money and do your workout and leave, and you don't care. You've got no connection with anybody there. You're not going to take anything away from it, essentially, other than a workout, and it's just a transaction. And we're not talking about a transaction. We're talking about a deep-rooted commitment, from both sides.
It's a sacred relationship.
Yeah, it's a teacher-disciple relationship. We don't call it disciples in the martial arts school. We just call them students. But that's what's happening here, and it's a sacred bond. Yeah, earlier on you asked me about this being a Sifu, and a Sifu, is, like I said, is someone that will lay their life on a line for a student or a loved one, because that's their disposition, right? They will do that because that's what they're meant to do. But will all teachers do that?
No, absolutely not. No.
No, they won't. And I think personally, this, coming from a Sikh background, we talk about, the Khalsa, the justice warriors. And I love that, because like the Justice League,
I like that. As I say, spiritual warrior. Yeah.
Yeah. they're
But they're
ultimately
actually
justice
physically,
warriors.
yeah.
They're justice
They
warriors.
fight for
They're fighting
justice.
for the underdogs.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, my work is about helping the underdog. That's my space. You know, that's my service to the world. And I don't expect anything in return for that. It's just what I'm here to do, and I try. And I if it's okay, I'd like to gift you something. And this is my kind of latest way of serving. And not a plug at all, but it's just a way of serving because that's where it's coming from.
Sure.
So I'm going to gift you this pack and you can open it.
Oh my goodness, it's one of your... I love that. I hate my job.
Yeah,
I can't...
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, love it. Turn your hate into love. Love that. Situational strategies for achieving optimal career and business success for employees and those employees that give a damn. Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so kind of you.
So
You'll have to sign it later, yeah?
Absolutely. It'd be an absolute pleasure. But you see, the idea here is that how do you help people that are in a position that they're struggling?
Yeah.
And, you know, not only from personal experience, but from IT consulting for the last 28 years. And a lot of project management, program management, strategic
I can't help
navigation
looking
in the
through.
corporate world.
You give 71 reasons why you might hate your job. But that
Absolutely.
is it. Reasons for hating your job. It goes from bad boss, micromanaging, overbearing, condescending boss who babysits you, right the way to point 71, you feel out of your depth. You feel disrespected. You've got creative block. You've lost your sense of self-belief. I mean, gosh, this is amazing. I guess so many people can relate to this on so many levels.
Yeah. So I think, you know, again, it's helping the underdog.
Yeah.
Giving them a helping hand. Say, look, I got you. You know, there's something here that can help you. And
Poor shitless.
oh man,
That's another reason you give it.
well, do you know what? It's a huge reason why people get bored in their jobs and they
Yeah, I
start to
can
hate their
get-
jobs.
I can get that.
Monotony, they get stuck in a rut,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden they're bored shitless.
Yeah. So you bring the martial arts mindset,
Yeah,
the martial mind power, to helping people in corporations who might be in
Absolutely.
these situations.
absolutely,
Yeah, love that.
absolutely.
So let's come back to. Thank you for this. I'm
You're
so
welcome.
looking forward to.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I love this. I might need to. You might see me make a couple of videos out
Please do.
of your book. Yeah, and the other one. Yeah, in a Bruce Lee Unleash. What do I need to do? Can you just run me through it?
You want the 9 steps?
I want the steps.
You want the steps?
But I want the steps with the stuff that gets in the way of it.
Okay.
Okay.
Stillness, calm your mind. Okay. Empty teacup, open your mind to learn. Possess an eagle eye, become self-aware of what it is that you need to
Possess
change.
an eagle eye.
Yeah. Think and become is change your belief system, right? And look at what you're capable of. Wata is about stepping into your fears. Be like water.
Stepping into
your fears.
Fizz.
Conquering your fears.
fears.
Be like water is starting to create a state of flow. Honestly expressing yourself. Go out there and say your piece, you know, with authenticity, with congruency and
Compassion.
Power side forwards. Use your strengths. Stay ahead. Find your rhythm in life and live to your own song, live to your own tune. And when your rhythm changes, adapt so that you're staying ahead, constantly progressing in life. And then the bonus is learn the art of dying is to let go.
Because the moment
Practice
you
the
let
art
go,
of
you
detachment.
awaken transformed. Some new part of you arises. In yoga, we do that with Shavasana.
Yeah.
Every yoga class, well, actually every practice, you need to end with Shav asana. Shav means a corpse.
Yeah.
And that's the posture. And it's the hardest posture. And there are two reasons why one does yogasanas. One is to be able to sit still in meditation
Yeah.
long enough
That's right.
in order to achieve samadhi. And secondly, the ability to lie down. I teach it very differently. I mean, the last thing that you said is in fact the first thing it's
Yeah.
always the first thing, right?
Yeah.
Where you actually let go. So surrender. But what people don't realize is, why do we do Shavasana and why do you want to let go? Because there's a moment when the big letting go comes. And if you're not prepared for that moment, then you're not able to surrender into death
Yeah.
in a way, in a state of gratitude,
Yeah.
in a state of true surrender and letting go with a sense of appreciation of what has gone up till now.
That's right.
Good, bad, or the ugly.
That's right.
In order that you can let go, slough off this body, and then you come away so like it's a transformation.
Yeah.
And I say to my students, I always say, like, every yoga class is a letting go. Every shavasana, you awaken from that. The hour, at the top of the hour, how you came in is not how you're going to leave now. A new being is emerging.
That's right.
But that aspect of letting go is perhaps the hardest.
That's right.
Detachment element.
I totally agree with you. There's another other powerful aspect to it as well, and that is about giving death to a certain notion that you might have.
Yes.
And in martial arts, the most accessible notion is that of winning. All right. So we accept death right from the beginning. So there is no winning. You've already lost. So what's left to do? Just do your best.
Just do your best.
That's it.
Love that.
And isn't that all that we can do anyway?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Isn't it? It's kind of ends the chase in the game, doesn't it?
That's it.
This is like a service.
100%.
You're being of service
100%.
to yourself at that level.
And I love that how you said that. You end the chase. Because we're chasing. We're taught to chase. We're taught to be competitive. Competition is the biggest killer of everything. You know, we segregate and separate people, nations, cities, boroughs, you know, by having teams, football teams in this area and that area. And as an example. And that spirit of sportsmanship is actually lost, because aren't they there to have fun at the same time?
Yeah.
And a lot of professional footballers, just to give you an example, are really depressed and struggling because they're not enjoying it anymore.
Because it's so significant.
Yeah.
It's become only about the doing and the winning and being the best.
That's right. That it
There's
becomes
no freedom.
Yeah.
And so actually, you know, when I look at the whole philosophy that you've just taken us through, and any philosophy that requires you to give yourself to it in a martial artist type of way, they all tend to lead to something called freedom.
That's right.
In the end.
That's right.
It's like that sense of being liberated from our own constraints.
That's right.
And the constraints of life around us.
Yeah.
So that you can operate with, like, you know, you're operating with ease and grace, even in the knowing that this is really difficult. I'm having a bad day. I've got too much to do. But still, there's that sense of freedom.
That's right.
And a choice.
That's right. 100%. Now, Bruce spoke about, you know, Jeet Kune Do being simple, direct, non-classical. And the non-classical element of it is the one that's a little bit more awkward to understand. Simple, you get that. Direct, you get that. And sometimes the most simple things are the most direct things. But not always. Sometimes you've got to loop around things. But the non-classical part of it is usually about, oh, well, what is that? Well, some people think, well, it's referring to the rigidity in classicalness or rigidity in routine and ritual, where it becomes rigid because it's, you know, now you've got no leeway, you've got no elbow room.
Self-expression.
You know? Yeah.
You
But
have to follow
really,
the prescription, in other
yes.
words.
And, there's, as you say, there's regulative principles in everything you do. If you want to become a doctor, you got to follow a certain protocol when you're doing an operation, for instance. And if you don't, you could cause an infection and kill your patient. All right. So regulation principle is disinfect your hands 3 times, all the way up to your elbows before you go into an operation. And you got, proper gloves on, proper garbs on before you go into a disinfected operating theatre, for instance. That's a regulative principle. If you're trading in the markets, you've got to follow regulative principles, because if you don't, you're going to get fined, or you might get done for trading ahead, insider trading, whatever it might be. You don't end up in jail. And just like that, martial arts, there's some principles as well. But what we're really talking about, the last one, is simple, direct freedom. A freedom of being able to express in your own way. That doesn't mean you break regulated principles and philosophies. It means you abide by them, but you do them with your own touch.
Like you own it.
Yes, you own it.
Yeah.
You become it.
Yeah.
Right? And you become it in your own
Give it your
being.
own expression.
Yeah.
And it's not about, actually, at the end of the day, it's not about because you have to give it your own expression, because you've got the mastery.
Yeah.
Then you have the awareness. And when you bring freedom into that, then that kind of like this dance that happens, and perhaps you step into the zone of genius now and then from that place, because you've seen something and done it in a different way to what it's typically done.
And that's what chapter 9 is about, staying ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chapter 9 is about that. Life is a cosmic dance, it's a superfluous intermingling of people, places, things to do as you traverse life. And it's just knowing how to navigate and move and step and cha in that moment. And we're trying to do that. And we're trying to make that an elegant dance, but sometimes with intensity, sometimes with fluidity and calmness, and the tempo can change in life, and we have to learn how to be playful with that, not just stay at one tempo all the time, but sometimes being able to adapt that to what's happening at any given moment in time.
So when you are operating at that level in your field, in your martial arts, what do you find happens in terms of the kind of people that you like to play with? Like you personally, like what for you is like, I'm really looking forward to this fight?
Fighting, sparring, fighting. I think I'd firstly say I don't enjoy fighting. Right. For the first 5 seconds. Then I love it. But I don't go into a fight thinking I want to fight. But I like the feeling afterwards.
Is that the expression of your skills? Is it like...
I fight to teach. So if we've got, say, black belt gradings, for instance, my students have to go through 10 rounds of hand and foot freestyle fighting and 10 rounds of just hand. So they use what's called jump fan boxing and jump fan kickboxing. So they have to use those weapons. And I have to push them so that I'm getting the most out of them. That also means that I'm also going to take a few hits as well. And that's all part and parcel of it. So
You're just a sucker for punishment. That's what it sounds like.
It's part and parcel of it. I think it's part and parcel of it. And you've got to be able to take a hit, not just in the dojo or when you're sparring or when you're practicing, but you've got to be able to take a hit in life.
But what about when you're in an alley? Let's say suddenly you've had a night out. Yeah. You're in a night out.
Yeah.
And you're on your own. And you're pursued by, a bunch of guys, who just want to have they just want to beat you up.
Yeah.
It happens, doesn't it?
It can happen.
Can happen. What do you do?
Run.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why?
You don't want to be a hero. Most fights, 80% of fights, have more than one attacker. That's a big statistic, which means that you've got to be proficient. Now, you don't know who's carrying a knife, who's got a gun, who's got a bar, who's got a baseball bat.
Right.
What's the point?
So you don't go out there with your level of mastery in Kung Fu. You do not go out there thinking, I can take on anybody.
No, that's ego.
Mm.
That's ego, because you have to remember, it takes a split moment, blink. It takes a split moment to get hit when you blink. And when you've got 3-4 people attacking you, that's a lot of blinking.
And you might even be able to take them on, but
you can.
You don't want to.
It's possible. I will always say, sometimes maybe depends. Everything's about time, place, circumstance.
Yeah.
It's not prescriptive, and it's changing from millisecond to millisecond. So in any given moment in time, you don't know what's going to happen. It could be you, it could be them. But you don't go out with the intention thinking, okay, I could deal with this. Because a gun will beat your fist.
Yeah. So the wisdom.
Yeah.
What wisdom do you teach your students around
So
when to fight and when not to fight?
So we have one of Bruce Lee's quotes on the back of our T-shirt. And right from the beginning, when I had the T-shirts made years ago, I put this logo, this quote on the back. And it literally says, the art of fighting without fighting. And that's it. Not fight is the highest level of fighting. And there is one level higher than that. And that is
to
love.
Beat the shit out of them.
No, it's love. It's love. Well, you can beat the shit out of people, It can be very easy to do when you know how.
Yeah.
And
sometimes it might work.
I think when you know how to hurt someone, you can. Like I said, time, place, circumstance, anything can happen.
So what's the higher level?
Love. Love's the highest level. Because when you act through love, you realize they're probably doing whatever they're doing out of love. Maybe that love is that they all have a bit of a love connection, contribution towards that moment in egging each other on and serving each other as a small community of thugs trying to attack an innocent person. That brings them closer together to give them certainty, uncertainty and purpose in that moment in time.
Belonging.
But that doesn't serve anybody, really.
No.
So just get the F out there.
And so how does love express itself in that moment?
That's how it expresses itself, because they have connection and love with each other.
With them, but how about you on the outside, the one who's confronted by these people? How do you express love in that for you?
You don't. You run. Because
that's love.
You see.
That is love.
You see that's how they are operating in that moment in time. And the chances of you communicating and being able to help them in that moment might be slim.
Yeah.
Unless somebody's open to it.
Yeah.
Most of the people in that group won't be willing to attack somebody.
So the love is to let them figure it out and to continue to be yourself and emit goodwill and energy, I suppose.
But on the flip side, and I'm going to make this very clear, if you have no choice, you take out the biggest fucker there and you deal with the rest. Usually what happens, you take the alpha out and the others shit it, and then it's done.
Interesting.
But on the street, it's dirty.
Yeah.
So we teach street fighting, and it's dirty. We go for all the targets that you would not go for in a ring. Any regulated sport, eyes, throat, groin, you take it all out, because there's very few people that can condition those parts in the body. So it's an ugly business. Fighting's very ugly, but sometimes ugliness precedes beauty, and sometimes you have no choice. If that's the case, and you have a compelling case to do that, then you have to do what you have to do. Make sure the CCTV cameras are seeing your intentions in favorable position to you. Because you got to think about these things, you know?
Yeah.
If only one camera's catching the action and they just see you hitting them and they don't see them trying to pull a knife out, then what? Then you're
The aggressor.
attacker,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
So you have to be careful because, you know, if you survive to tell the tale, you might be the one doing time or the one with a record or the one with consequences, regardless. So it's not black and white. There's so many aspects to this that you have to be
Discerning.
completely,
You have to discern,
aware,
right?
yeah.
Every situation demands
Absolutely.
its own
Absolutely.
response. Yeah. I was being a little bit flippant when I
And
asked,
that's-
but
and that's
actually,
good.
no, but actually, your answer is just brilliant. I really think it has so much for all of us, not just a person who's learning kung fu, but as in like in life. When do you actually? What is the highest form of love? In certain situations, it might be walking away.
Yeah.
Yeah. In other situations, it might actually be, you know, going for the jugular.
You know, if somebody, you know, there's a lot of theft in retail stores at the moment, especially food stores.
Yes.
You know, and you know if that, you know, gets violent, for instance, or has the potential of getting violent, you can disarm that by saying, "I'll pay for your groceries. It's okay. I got you."
Yeah.
And what else do you want? You want some nappies or whatever it is, you know. But nappies are probably one of the number one stolen items, by the way,
Really?
at the moment, right now
Unbelievable.
in the UK.
Wow.
And store security are told not to intervene unless the value is over £100. I think it's even gone up more than that now. So basically what they're saying is don't bother because it's not worth your life. Right. So we have to be mindful, you know, that people are struggling and people are usually acting out of love. So somebody that's stealing nappies or food is doing that because for the love of themselves or the love of a family member, right? So they're trying to provide for them, but they don't have the means and they're in a bind and they need help. So sometimes just something like that can help somebody, help humanize someone. You know, maybe they just feel invisible and left out.
Yeah. That's a really valid point. The ability to grant someone existence of being, you know, like a sense of value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time, place, circumstances is everything. And one of my Sifus used to say, you know, students always ask questions, you know, Sifu, what if this happened or what if that happened? Sometimes maybe depends. Is the universal answer.
Decide on the day. Yeah. So on that note, thank you so much. This has been so fascinating. Really loved the conversation with you, Lak. Really appreciate your time and your wisdom, man. It's just incredible. I'm really, really grateful to have this just chance to have this one-to-one. And I'm sure we'll speak again. And thank you for my amazing present, which, you know, for me, there can't be a bigger gift than someone's own life lessons that they have taken the time to package in a way that it can be useful to other people. Yeah. So this is like really valuable.
Obligation giving it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I hate my job. That's the word. Go get it now.
Or as somebody said, it could mean flipping as well.
Yeah, it could do.
But we all know what it means.
I didn't see that. I didn't say that. I didn't see that. I straight away saw what.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because that's what it was meant to be.
We're going to have to bleep. We are going to have to bleep this out. But okay. Hey ho. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Really nice.
Thank you so much, and thank you for taking the time to watch this.